Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Big Apple Hockey, where we got a lot to talk about going into the trade deadline. Is this the best time of the year, guys?
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
It's either that or it's July 1st, where you're filled up with hope and quickly get derailed when you find out a free agent's got a no move clause for 4 years. Everybody, I am Mark Williams, your host. I know that we got that other nameplate on there, but I like this one better. And I'm joined by the host of the Final Buzzer, back from Florida, Mr. John Folkowski.
So rumor mill is swirling right now, and there's a big name that may be headed to New York.
Well, and here's a man that is celebrating one Brock Nelson, Mr. Anthony LaRocco.
Yeah, I don't know. He's been on a heater. You know, he had that 12 game point streak that snapped the other day, but then he had a two goal game the other night. It was crucial against Pittsburgh on Monday. So Brock's heating up at the right time again, which is awesome to see.
And you got to wonder where the New York Islanders would be without Brock Nelson, especially this season. But everybody, and there's the dogs going off. Everybody, we're going to start by going to the A block. Is our new graphic. I want to show it off, especially since I worked on it today. And there it is. All right. Which, by the way, our A block is always going to be brought to you by SeatGeek. Go on SeatGeek. Put in the promo code Big Apple Hockey, and you get $20 off your first order. All right. So going into today, by the way, for most Ranger games, I should say, there's a final buzzer with John Folkowski, as well as I try to get the 60-second reviews done for both the Islanders and the Rangers as much as I can. You can also go to Big Apple Hockey Podcast, where I have a couple articles out there for that, as well as the Big Apple Hockey trucker hats are on the way again. They're available now. Go ahead, order them. And, of course, the trade deadline, that's a big show for us. We're going to have giveaways and stuff like that. So there's the SeatGeek thing. But talking about the New York Rangers first, guys. The Rangers, third place in the Metropolitan Division, 75 points, and their goal differential keep on climbing, 39 right now, plus 39. They got 5 of 6 points on the Western Canada trip, and then Connor Hellebuck came in and did the impression of a wall. But the story that is kind of permeating right now, guys, Igor Shesterkin's last 5 games, 4-1, .65 save percentage, 18 goals against. Ouch. If he wasn't a New York Ranger, I'd probably be killing him. I got to ask you, Phil, is there concern with Igor's recent struggles?
Yeah, there should be some. Is it the end of the world? No, but there should definitely be some. He's doing things wrong. Stephen Valakat was breaking it down the other day on the last broadcast. 2 of the goals he was down extremely early for, and in one of them he was almost completely in his net. If he would have had wet paint on the crossbar and the posts, he would have had paint all over the back of his shoulders because he would have been so far back in the net. But he's going down early on shots. He's staying down. It doesn't seem right now with him. Something is completely off. It's in his head. He just needs to reset. He didn't talk to the press the other day after the game, Monday night. So, he just needs to kind of reset things and just kind of try to relax himself in some sort of way, because it just seems like he's fretting. He's fighting. He's letting up several juicy rebounds, in that game. But he's going to be fine. It's just a matter of when he gets out of that funk. I would rather him go through this funk now than, in April or possibly in May, when you can't afford to have that. But, the defense in front of them has still got to be better too. They just, it's enough is enough with the bumbling, the passes. I've said this before about this team, but they're horrible at breaking the puck out of their own zone. And the over-reliance on stretch passes hurts them so much, because if you don't have that, you're basically turning the puck over and you're icing it, giving it back, and it just ends up with more time in the defensive zone. And more time in the defensive zone is going to lead to more chances against, which is going to lead to more goals against. And that's a big problem too. So Igor, while he should be taking some of the blame, is not fully to blame here. You need better out of guys like Jacob Trouba. He needs to be better in his own zone. I mean, Kyle Connor absolutely just walked by him the other night for a breakaway, which Igor actually stopped, made a great save on. But you can't have that happening. Keandre Miller has not been playing great defensively as of late. He's had some games where he's looked really good, but overall, his defensive play has dropped off quite a bit as of late. And that's not something that the Rangers can afford to deal with right now, because he's playing about 20 minutes a game. He can't be doing that for 20 minutes a game. So he's got to be better. Braden Schneider has gone into a lull. Nico Mikkola has taken way too many penalties. He has to stay out of the box. Adam Fox and Ryan Lindgren have been good overall as a pair. Adam Fox has played great, but Ryan Lindgren, I don't know what he's doing, but he seems to be chasing the puck all over the place instead of staying in his position and letting the game come to him. So he's got to get better. But yeah, this defense has to be a lot better to help out Igor. And I think this team needs a laugher where, the opposition gets maybe 25, maybe 30 shots on net, but they're not high danger chances. Maybe Igor has to make a few high danger saves, and it's just a blowout and an easy game, because the Igor's in his head right now, and that's probably the best medicine to get him out of it.
Kind of like the Vancouver game at MSG a couple weeks ago. That's what you're prescribing for the New York Rangers?
Sort of to an extent, yes. I would say something a little better defensively than that, because I thought they were very sloppy at times defensively in that game too.
Well, Anthony, what are your thoughts on Igor's recent struggles? You're the guy that was kind of sounding the alarm for me on this. I was throwing it back.
Yeah. I mean, he's been getting blasted a lot in my group chat. The men's league team I play on, they're actually filled with Ranger fans. So, it's coming from your own mostly. But, I mean, he's at a .912 save percentage this season. I think I saw a tweet by Larry Brooks, I think it was yesterday, saying that in his last 9 out of 16 starts, he's got a save percentage lower than 900. So, he's been up and down all year, more specifically during this stretch. He hasn't been very good. And, the Rangers have been on a heater, but you look at some of those games they won, they also let up 3-4 goals some of those games. So the goal scoring is kind of masking their defense and goaltending issues right now. And obviously in a game where they didn't score goals against Winnipeg, they scored 1 goal and they let up 4. Obviously they lost. But I think Shesterkin is obviously a very good goalie. I just think he is in his head a little bit. And listen, it's hard to, when you have like an almost historic season, what he did last year, it's hard to follow that up. People are going to have expectations of maybe it being replicated. And that's, unless you're literally almost like a generational or elite player, it's hard to replicate a season like that year after year. So I think you got to keep that in mind too. But he does have to be better. Come playoff time, obviously it's harder to score goals. So, if he were to keep playing like this, the Rangers offense may not mask some of these, holes in his game right now. So it's important for him to work through it and clean it up now. So come playoff time, he can get right, because they're essentially going to be locked into that 2-3 matchup against the Devils. The Devils are an offensive team. They got speed. They can really move the puck and they could score. So, if he doesn't have his game right by then, it could present a problem. So, he's just got to continue to work through it. Like Johnson, maybe it takes a confidence booster, like a shutout, or a game where he makes a lot of big stops and lets 1 goal for maybe 2-3 games in a row to get himself feeling good again. But he needs to be better, though. I mean, you expect more from an elite goaltender, and he needs to provide the Rangers with more. It's just how it is. Listen, I get it. When you have an elite goalie who your fan base endors, it's for some fans. You find excuses and you don't want to admit there's a problem. Same thing with the Islanders. I mean, Ilya Sorokin's beloved by the whole team. And yeah, sure, there are games that he's been bad, and you gotta call it out like it is. And right now, Igor is not playing well, and like John mentioned, the Ranger defense is not doing him any favors to compound that issue. Trouba specifically, I do agree with Phil. Keandre Miller hasn't been as good as he was earlier in the year. So there are other areas where they need to clean up for sure. It's not just in goal, but if I were a Ranger fan, though, I would hope to God that Igor snaps out of it and he can not even necessarily get back to the Igor of last year. Because again, it's hard to replicate a year like that, but at least play at a level where you're giving your team a 920 save percentage, night in and night out. I mean, that's for a goalie of his skill level, that's what you want to see. So I think he'll clean it up. But yeah, right now I wouldn't be happy with his play for sure.
I'll conclude with one reason why I think he's definitely going to get it cleaned up, but I'm going to start with this. He was 10th in the league in save percentage before this stretch, which knocked him all the way. He was at a 919, knocked him all the way down to a 912. And it's one of those things. I think they decided to rest him for 2 weeks. There's a theory going around. Somebody threw out there that he might have gotten hurt at the All-Star game when he got tangled up with Dylan Larkin. Whatever it is, you got Benoit Allaire. Benoit Allaire is going to get things right. And if it's not right, because look at what he's getting out of Yaroslav Halak right now. And there are lulls, but you guys are right. There are things to be concerned about. And I think, Anthony, you also hit it on the head, which, by the way, is an article I put on the Big Apple Hockey Podcast website, which is I kind of compared it to Dwight Gooden in 1985. When you're that good, you're going to come back down to earth almost the other way around. Granted, Dwight Gooden had a lot of other things too, but going on. But in this case, there's no way Igor can replicate what that was last year. And I even thought that was a possibility. I guess shame on me, but he's going to get it ironed out. And I think his focus might be more towards the playoffs and getting there and then trying to conserve yourself, because his playoffs did not start well last year either. And then he got a second wind and got the Rangers to the conference finals. By the way, Phil, before I get your thoughts on the West Coast trip, I think you're also right about that. If you're taking away the stretch pass for the Rangers, a lot like Tampa did and Carolina did for the most part in the playoffs last year, those games are very difficult for them to win. But
yeah, you can't over rely on that, and that's why this team gets hemmed into their own zone like that. I'll say two last things about Igor before we move on. And one is the fact that he got 5 starts in February. 5. So to me, I listen, I get that Yaroslav Halak needs to play, and he's playing well. But at the same time, this is almost like the same problem that they had in 2021 when Quinn tried to run the goalie carousel. You can't do that. And it shows, it tell you right now, you've got to run with Igor. He is your guy. You have to run with him. You have to stop worrying about the backup and everything. He's got to get his game in there every now and then, but you cannot be playing Yaroslav Halak as often as they are playing him right now. I get they want to keep him rested, Igor, for the playoffs, but you can't do that. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about was that you cannot, and I mean you absolutely cannot continue to start games the way they have started games.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. No, you can't.
Yeah, and they're getting it, like the way that they're starting games, they're getting behind in every single game that they're playing, and they're coming back, and it's great that they're coming back and they're winning a lot of these games. But you got a point against Calgary, which was great, but you cannot act like every team is going to be Edmonton and they're just going to fold and blow multiple goal leads. And you're not going to win the playoffs like that. You're going to face better teams that'll lock everything down defensively. Like Carolina, you get behind them like that, forget about it. You're done.
Especially 48 seconds in.
And Winnipeg is not nearly as good as a defensive team as Carolina or Boston. You get behind one of those two monsters, forget about it. You're done, especially with the way that Linus Ullmark is playing if you're playing Boston. So the Rangers got to start starting games better, and that's on coaching. If you do not have your players ready to start games consistently like this, that means that there's a problem with the coach. And whatever message he's sending, it's not getting through to them. So they have to figure this stuff out.
Yeah, because you know what? Starting a game is just as important as how you finish a game. And you hit the nail on the head with that one. And you can't have games where you're going down 4-1 in the first period, 2-0 within the first minute, because then your guys are just demoralized, and then they'll go through the motions on that. To the Rangers' credit, they came back and got at least a point out of both games, 2 in the Edmonton game. And Igor, there were reports I saw that he kind of wanted out of the Edmonton game. Gallant stuck with him, and he ended up doing an impression of a wall. But you can't ask too many guys to be doing that. No. Phil, thoughts on the West Coast trip first?
I mean, it was good to get the points that they did. So, I mean, you go out there, usually they have a pretty tough time on the West Coast, but they played pretty well. I mean, overall, I guess they played well. But again, a lot of sloppy games, getting behind in games, and it seems like it's becoming a trend. They're not stepping up. They're not stepping up to start games. And if you're not going to be awake to start games, it's going to come back to bite you. So that's one thing that they've got to change, and they've got to change it now.
Anthony.
I mean, yeah, it's falling behind. I mean, I've seen it with the Islanders. It's falling behind in the first period constantly. You know, you dig yourself a hole, and sometimes it's too hard to come back from. I mean, some cases you do, but you don't want to make a ritual of it happening all the time or being too consistent with it. So, yeah, the Rangers have to start better. I mean, again, that doesn't help Igor's confidence either when you fall behind in the first period. Seems like every game it takes a little bit out of you. But you got to start on time. You got to have your legs. This time of year, points are so important. Teams are coming out flying out of the gate, and you have to be willing to match the other team's work ethic and intensity. If you don't, you could find yourself with the game being over before it starts.
Yeah, and after all, starting on time, that was what Mike Babcock used to talk about all the time. His name almost slipped my mind for a minute because I don't think I'm going to see him much in the NHL for the next few years anyway. But yeah, you got to start a game fresher than the way they've been starting it. So hopefully the Rangers can get that corrected. All right, everybody, let's move over to the Islanders. The Islanders right now moved up to 4th in the Metro with 2 huge third period comebacks against the Penguins in regulation, which was more important than anything else. Yeah, they were crushed by Boston, but that's not the bad news out of that. This was Mat Barzal right now. He's week to week. On the other hand, the Islanders in the last 10, 6-2-2. They are number 1 in the wild card rankings ahead of Florida and Pittsburgh. And of course, Washington. By the way, 60 games played. Pittsburgh still has 4 games at hand. We'll get more on that in a little bit. And they're still going to go through the buzzsaw versus Winnipeg, versus LA, at Winnipeg, at Minnesota, versus Detroit, versus Buffalo, versus Pittsburgh, and versus Washington. But before we get too far into that, everybody, I've got to make Anthony the happiest guy in the world because he gets to see Ilya Sorokin making this unbelievable stop on Chris Letang. And with the stick. How does he get it with the stick? And it's not the first time he's done this, Anthony.
Yeah, he did it to the save against the Rangers that I think won save of the year last year on Panarin, where he got it with the stick. But if you're an Islander fan that watches, the Islanders every night, and I mean none of this really surprises you. I mean the guy is like Gumby. And he stretches to make ridiculous saves night in, night out. It's something that we've kind of gotten used to. So when I see him make a ridiculous save, it's just kind of like, oh, well, there he is doing his thing again. No, but that was a huge save. It was 2-1 Penguins at the time. So if that goes in, it could end up being a different game. But, I said last week that, the 2 games against Pittsburgh were absolute must wins. They absolutely needed to get both those wins against Pittsburgh. And they did, in both games they were down. The game at home, they were down with 2 goals, came back. And I was, even when it was tied, I'm like, yeah, they could still win, but I'd rather have Pittsburgh get no points. And that's what ended up happening. So Parise with the game-winning goal with about 3 minutes left. And then the game in Pittsburgh, Tristan Jarry is making his return. He hadn't played in 9 games. And he did Tristan Jarry things. I mean, Bo Horvat took a good shot, but from that angle on the tying goal, he probably should have stopped it. And then on the winning goal, he kind of misplayed the puck, and then the defenseman gave the puck away, and Lee was backdoor. Game over. But it was they're not giving up. You could tell in their play. They were motivated to get both of those wins, and they did. And the game against Boston, obviously they got waxed. It is what it is. Coming off a back-to-back, they're playing their backup goalie. I wasn't too broken up about it. The Penguins games were the ones they had to absolutely win, and they did. And now they're in the first wild card spot, and teams below them have games in hand. But as I said before, games in hand don't mean anything if you don't win them. And those teams have serious issues. Pittsburgh's not going anywhere with the goaltending they have. Washington's on a 3-game slide, and it just looks like their age is starting to really show, which Phil had said before. They're slipping. Buffalo beat San Jose and Anaheim, and it's but then they played a good team in Toronto, and they got absolutely waxed. And they don't really have good goaltending and good defense either. So I don't know. I think the Islanders just have to keep winning games. If they keep winning games, the advantage they have in all these teams below them is the goaltending. So if they could just get on a little bit of roll here, maybe get a little bit of separation, it might come to the point where the games in hand really won't even be an issue. So this next 4-game stretch here is big. Starting with tonight in Winnipeg, should be a good game. 2 all-world goalies in net, Hellebuck versus Sorokin. Just try to keep going, and again, just getting points, and try to get that separation from those teams like Buffalo and Detroit and even Washington. So we'll see what happens tonight. But I was really happy they got those 2 wins against Pittsburgh, because if they didn't, it would have been really, really tough for them to get into a playoff spot.
No worry about Detroit with 4 games in hand and only 3 points back.
Again, it's first off, every team is flawed. Even the Rangers have flaws. Hurricanes have flaws. Every team has flaws. But these teams like Detroit and Buffalo, they're not good teams. They have a lot of issues. Several. Ville Husso, last year he was amongst the league leaders in goaltending statistics. This year he's nowhere to be found. Detroit, they're playing well. I'll eat my hat if Detroit makes the playoffs. Honestly, I'm not concerned about Detroit, to answer that question.
All right. Because I didn't put them on the rundown, so I needed to get some kind of mention on this. Phil, what are your thoughts on the Islanders moving into wildcard 1?
They've cleaned up a little bit. I still think they're a little sloppy defensively still. They're still letting up a lot of goals. Ilya Sorokin's still, he's playing great at times. Not what you were getting from Ilya Sorokin earlier on in the year, kind of like his friend across town. But they're playing a little better defensively. You really have to wonder how this Mat Barzal injury is going to affect them, and that's the biggest thing. Does this hamper them going forward? Pittsburgh's. I think Pittsburgh is garbage defensively, and I think they're garbage in goal. I think their strategy is going to be can their aging core basically keep the puck from the opposition and score goals, and they're pretty good at that. But can they do that for an entire game, and can they do that against a team that's going to hammer them all game and be all over them and hound them and give them hell? And I don't think they can do that. I just don't think that team is good enough. If they go and they make moves, then who knows? But, the Islanders, the one thing that they're always going to have over the other teams that are chasing the wild card spots are defense and goaltending. And I honestly think that the Islanders might even be a deeper team than some of the other teams as well. But overall, I do think that when you have the level of the defense corps that they do and the goaltender that they do, that they have a distinct advantage over those teams going forward. And like I said about Washington, another team with an aging core. Alexander Ovechkin seems to be coming back. I believe he's going to be back either tonight or the next game, I think.
I think he was. I saw a tweet. He was on the ice for practice with them. So he's back.
Yeah,
with the team. Yeah.
So I don't know if he's playing in the next game or if it's the game after that. But that's a boost to them. But again, you're still without John Carlson going forward, and we don't know how long or how much longer he's going to be out for. But I think the Islanders are primed to take at least one of those wild card spots. Maybe it is even wild card 1. And you'd much rather play Carolina than Boston, to tell you the truth, because I can't see the Islanders doing anything against Boston. I don't know. I think any team that plays Boston in the first round is going to get absolutely destroyed. That's just
a waste of 8 days, as Daryl Sutter would say.
Basically. But I mean, the Islanders still have some things to clean up. You have to hope that Mat Barzal is back sooner than later. And now it's next man up. Who's going to be that guy? Is it Brock Nelson going to go on a heater and kind of ride out that heater, for the rest of the season, or just be consistently good going forward? I mean, after last year, you expected more from Brock Nelson. Is Anders Lee going to step up and start scoring some more goals? Is Kyle Palmieri going to do something? I mean, I know you don't have Oliver Wahlstrom back yet, and you're missing guys like Simon Holmstrom and stuff. I mean, listen, you can go up and down asking for guys to start contributing offensively. It's just a matter of who the next guy is going to be at this point. So, I mean, big wins for them against Pittsburgh. I mean, you can't really say much about the Boston game. I didn't even watch that one. I wasn't available for it. But, Boston is just – they're in a class of their own right now. And
a back-to-back after an emotional win like that was going to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's a good sign if you're an Islander fan. They get up for a big rivalry game against a team that they're playing, that they're in direct competition in, and they were down in that one game, and they came back and they won. And that's a very physical, emotional game. Those are playoff type games that you want to win. And especially being that they're 4-point games, that's big. That's not just big, that's huge. So good on the Islanders to be able to do that. But like I said, without Mat Barzal, here comes the true test.
Well, I'm going to be quick with my point on this one, because I'll start with the fact that now you're going to see the value of the Bo Horvat trade. Sure, there's goal scoring and all the other stuff. His leadership is what's going to help the Islanders right now, especially being sans Barzal. They could use Barzal, but this is where you lose a little bit of talent and you get the guys to pull together. Maybe you keep that adrenaline rush going. Like I said, it's a difficult next 8 games. I'll put it up on the screen again. But, the Islanders right now, they just beat Pittsburgh twice. Who knows? You beat Winnipeg and then you get yourself on a roll. Everybody starts to believe, and when you have confidence, everything gets better. And we could start with that. You're right about one thing, guys. We've said it all year. Ilya Sorokin is their difference maker, and they'll win the goaltending matchup pretty much against most teams. This being one tonight where he might not win that matchup, but the Islanders, if they can keep this up, then it doesn't matter if other guys got games in hands, because they got to win those games in hand. So, but we're going to get the final word from Anthony right here. What do you think they have to do to keep this going?
So losing Barzal clearly, sucks.
Mm-hmm.
However, their center depth is still really good. You have Horvat, Nelson. I mean, Pajot's still out. Hopefully he'll be back soon. But Horvat, Nelson, Pajot, Zizekas down the middle as your centers 1 through 4. Despite missing Barzal, that's still pretty damn group of depth down the middle. So that's the positive. They just need to get more production from their wingers. And this is the case, they're strong down the center of the ice. They need their wingers to start producing. Palmieri, Lee, they need to put pucks. I mean, Lee's actually been pretty good lately. Palmieri's been getting points, assists. He needs to score goals. And this is why I think if they, win their next couple of games here and keep this going, Lou's going to add another forward to help compensate with Barzal being out. I'm not saying it's going to be a major one, but, he might look to a guy like JVR, and Philly's probably going to be out. He could probably be had for pretty cheap. They're gonna pick up another forward to add for their depth going down the stretch here. So I think just keep trying to keep the momentum going. You're feeling good about yourselves. Picked up 2 huge Metropolitan Division wins against the Penguins here. You're in a playoff spot again. But it's tight, so they're gonna have to play like every game is a playoff game essentially, and even the teams below them have to do that too. So they have to bring the intensity and the work ethic every night, and hopefully they pick up points on a more consistent basis here.
And I don't mean to be beating this dead horse, or even he's probably a great guy, but if there's any goalie that I need to make a save, it's never going to be Tristan Jarry, because that guy, he can let in a shot from the other end and have it go in. You were talking about the Mike Richter from 1992 earlier with me, Phil. But I mean, Tristan Jarry, if there's a chance for a soft goal, that Horvat goal, good for Horvat, bad for you, Tristan. That was awful. So, all right.
And that's why the Penguins, I think, are in a little bit of trouble. I mean, their goaltending is not good, and they, their defense isn't good, and they're stars. Crosby, Malkin, Gensel. I mean, Raquel. They need to do something if they want to, get into the playoffs here.
And if the Penguins, for some reason, don't make the playoffs, there might be a name on the chopping block. We'll get to that more in a minute. But first, actually, you know what? Let's go. Yeah, I'll save it for Bar Talk to ask you guys to go around on that. All right. So that's the end of the A block, guys. And that was also powered by SeatGeek. Use Big Apple Hockey to get $20 off your first order, because we are going to do some power rankings right now. And there's the intro.
More power.
You underestimate my power.
All right. And to present our power rankings for today, we have Mr. John Falkowski, who's going to start reading them off.
All right. So for mine, I went Boston Bruins #1. Yeah. What is there really to say about this team that hasn't been said already? They continue to just roll along their wagon. They're going to win the President's Trophy. There's not really anybody that's going to give them a fight, maybe except Carolina with an outside shot. But that's really about it right now. But they just keep firing on all cylinders. This team, funny enough, on paper, they're not like incredible looking, but they play well and they're very well coached. And Linus Ullmark is just having a year like Igor had last year, but he's actually having an even better one, funny enough. So moving on to #2, I put the New York Rangers at #2. They'd won 7 games in a row, and they were coming back in some of these games, just showing a lot of resilience. That whole no-quit New York mantra was there. They were playing very well. They had points in 8 games in a row until they lost to Winnipeg the other night. It's probably their worst loss in a while. Winnipeg just kind of outclassed them in terms of defense. I mean, Hellebuck was great in that game, but they were trying to force cross-seam passes. Winnipeg was not letting anything go through. They needed to take more shots on the point. Gerard Gallant's got to be better at making in-game adjustments, because he just doesn't seem to know how to do that. Moving on from the Rangers at #3, I have the Carolina Hurricanes. I think they were, I think right behind the Rangers and the Bruins. They were kind of rolling along quietly. Not a lot of people are talking about them right now. They're still a dangerous team, and I think they might make a move. I wouldn't be surprised if they got Timo Meier, and that would be a scary acquisition for that team, even with the losses of players like Max Pacioretty and so on. But yeah, they don't have a lot of holes except for in net. Their defense is pretty good. Their forwards play a very quick, in-your-face, up-tempo type of game. It's hard to play against. Their defensemen are almost always pinching, so it makes zone exits nearly impossible. And they're just a real tough team to play against. We saw that come playoff time last year. They found a way to break Brindamore's system. Rangers might have to do that again, because they might have to end up playing them again. So, #4, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning. You know what? They've been playing some real good hockey as of late. They're coming on. It seems like they're just in that 2000 Yankees mold, where they're kind of just getting through the season, and they're just waiting to make their move at the trade deadline, and then they're going to make that move, and then they're going to just pop up and be right back in the cup threat scene. Not that they aren't a cup threat right now, but one real good move on defense and maybe another depth forward could really just put them right back into the thick of things. And you could be looking at them as, maybe going to their 4th Stanley Cup final in a row for all we know. No, not that anybody outside of Tampa Bay wants to see that, but they seem like they're primed to be in that position. And then number 5, I put the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're playing a hell of a lot better lately. This team just keeps going along in terms of regular season play. We know that the issue is the playoffs. So that's going to be the real thing. Can they finally win a playoff round? But you went and you added 2 depth pieces, and I shouldn't say it, a big star player and a depth piece. And Ryan O'Reilly comes in and scores a hat trick. I mean, he looks way better than he's looked all year in St. Louis. I mean, and you add Noel Acciari as a good bottom 6 forward on top of that. I mean, Toronto got the types of players that they needed. They needed more, good two-way, 200 feet players. They got 2 of them in this deal, and it's going to make them a hell of a lot tougher to play against come playoff time. I think they still need a defenseman, but those moves will go a long way. So,
well, looking at the rest of our top, sorry, for some reason it was on the wrong screen right there. Our top 5, Anthony and I, we tend to agree with a lot of these, but I had the New Jersey Devils at number 3. I put Carolina 2. I have the Rangers getting in there at 5. Maple Leafs, like you said, Phil, gotta love the way the Maple Leafs on there. I mean, I know mine's very Eastern Conference heavy. You look at yours and Anthony, basically same thing. Maple Leafs and Devils are flip-flopped. Anthony, what has impressed you about some of the teams you have in your top 5?
Muted.
Oh, I got him. And
you muted him again.
Okay.
Let him do it.
Yeah, we're good. I had Boston, Toronto at 1 and 2. They're the best 2 teams in the league. They're in a class of their own, so I felt it was easy to keep it that way at 1 and 2. The rest of the 3, I could have really flip flopped in any type of order. To be truthful with you, I had the Rangers at 5, like you, Mark. My reasoning for that was just they've been winning games, but again, they've been scoring a lot of goals, but they've also been letting up a lot. They need to clean that up in their defense. So I thought it was appropriate to have them at 5. I don't know if you had them at 5 for the same reasons, Mark, but regardless, though, they're definitely a top 5 team for me right now. And I think, we all were in agreement essentially what the top 5 teams were. A few variances there, but I just think Boston and Carolina are just so good. For me, it'd be hard pressed to see anyone to try to say those 2 teams aren't the best 2 teams in the league right now. They're just seems like they're machines, to be honest with you. So we'll see what happens come playoff time, because that's the most important when it matters, playoff hockey. But I would be surprised if either of them had early exits. But for me, they're the top 2 teams in the league by football.
If you look at since the last time we did this, which I believe was July 11th, Boston is 9-3-1. I wasn't going to knock them out of the top overall spot for that. 3.38 goals against and 1.85. Sorry, that was goals for per game. 1.85 goals against per game. Carolina was 11-1. 4.25 and 2.33 were their numbers. Colorado nearly got in there for me because Colorado's been playing exceptional, and I couldn't put the Rangers in over the New Jersey Devils. We're going to look back at that Devils comeback against the Rangers in the beginning of January, and that's going to be what turned around the Devils season, because they popped those 2 goals in the third period, and Severson wins it in overtime. They have not relinquished second place since then. So, and the Rangers had a chance at second place. Now,
and they don't have Jack Hughes either right now, and they're
no, I thought he just came back too.
He just came back.
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah, he came back.
He went from week to week, and it was only about 2 weeks. So
I don't even think it was 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's so right there, Anthony. That's an encouragement for you, for Mat Barzal. Hopefully, you'll have the same situation.
Yeah, but Jack Hughes' upper body, Mat Barzal. I didn't see it, but I heard it was a knee-to-knee hit from Craig Smith.
Yeah, I still didn't see it either.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it because work Saturday was just killing me. So that is our power rankings. What do you guys think about them? Who would you put in? Who would you take out? Throw it all down in the comments below. Maple Leafs fans, I know you argued with me over the our power rankings last month, but you know what? You're in now for me. So there you go. I think all of us threw you in there. Although I think yours was out. So all right. And now let's do a bar talk, guys.
Shot. This is the easiest I've ever had to answer.
I'm gonna say beer. I can't even begin to describe.
I'm actually going to go crazy. I'm going to buy everybody around on this one. All right. Welcome back to Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk, where we're gauging our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice of drink. Are you so confident you're buying everybody around? So you'll just have a beer, or oh my God, I just need a shot. Play along down in the comments below. And of course, for this, we are sponsored by Drizly. Make it a Drizly night. Click the link in the description. Why go to the liquor store when the liquor store can come to you? It's also great for parties. That way you don't have to go out. Just click. Just do the app. Make sure you click the link down below. And as I said before, Big Apple hockey trucker hats are coming. And speaking about what's coming, 10 days away, guys. Actually, it's now 9. The trade deadline show that we're doing, and the big name on the market, Patrick Kane, 10 days and counting. Well, it could be 9, like I just said a second ago. And up to 5 teams are interested. Philk, the New York Rangers will acquire Patrick Kane.
I'm going to buy around. I think this is happening. I really, at this point, I just don't see him going anywhere else. He's made it pretty clear he wants to come to New York. So I think it's New York or bust at this point. And this is just like Rick Nash in 2012. And I know that happened in the offseason. But, I mean, even if Chicago can't get their asking price, they're just going to hold on to this guy and then just let him go to free agency and walk for nothing instead of getting assets to help their rebuild. I mean, I just don't see it. I don't see it. I think he wants out. The comments after the Tarasenko trade would tell you that. And then the comments about Toronto, how he came out basically and said that, well, not basically, he did say that Toronto was never an option. So, and I don't see Toronto. And right after that, he can't. They ended up getting Ryan O'Reilly and Noel Acciari. So you know they're not getting any more forward help. They're more than likely going after a defenseman. So that would eliminate what was believed to be a suitor for him. So I think this is around. I just think we're in the whole negotiation stage and squabbling between Drury and Davidson and how far down Drury can get Davidson's price at this point. But that's what I think we're looking at right now.
Anthony.
I think it's a beer. I mean, it could happen, but you got to also understand it's complicated. The Rangers need to find a third team to broker it, to retain the salary, and then aside from giving up assets to Chicago, they're also going to have to give up an asset to the third team that's brokering their retention of the salary. So, it's certainly possible, but around, for me at least, implies that it's like definitely happening. I think Patrick Kane still has interest in going to some other teams. The Dallas Stars is a name that I've heard consistently. Las Vegas Golden Knights are another team that I've heard. The Oilers, but I don't think he wants to go to Edmonton. But there are other teams out there that I think he will consider. And it might be an easier path for Chicago to facilitate the trade. You don't have to jump through the hoops. But listen, it's certainly possible as long as until the Rangers are still going to be talked about a possibility just because he was his preference. So we'll see. Certainly possible, but I think there are other players out there.
I'm upgrading my answer to just beer. I still think the economics of the situation don't really work. But on the other hand, if he's really that motivated, he can tell the Blackhawks basically, get whatever deal you can from New York for me. That's the only team I'm going to. And then Chris Drury has small pieces that he can give. If you said Vitaly Kravtsov at a second-round pick and money retained, and unfortunately the Rangers are probably going to have to deal another pick elsewhere in order to get a 3-team trade.
Probably going to be a third-round pick too. Based on what we're seeing with these other trades when you look at David Savard, Derek Brassard, even the Ryan O'Reilly trade.
Mhm.
It looks like it's been third, fourth round picks to these other teams to retain, 20, 25%. So that's not going to be an issue at all. It's just finding the team. Vancouver has basically stated that they're interested in doing that. So why would Vancouver not Minnesota? They've already done it. You probably would do it again. So
but I've gone over this a million different times. I think if it's another star like Patrick Kane, too many cooks spoil the stew. And I'd rather see a guy like, say, Barbashev and maybe Nick Bonino come over. And there you go. That just rounds out your second line right wing.
Okay, so you still want Jimmy Vesey in the top 6?
No, Barbashev would come in too. You would put him up on the second line.
Because if you get Bonino, you're not getting Barbashev too.
Well, I was just throwing that one out there. Well, I mean, they're trying to get a $10 million player under the cap right now. I'm pretty sure my trade I just suggested was as much of a pipe dream. Like there are fans right now throwing out Lafferty and Kane in this deal. There's no way they're going to get both.
The Rangers score a lot of goals. The Rangers score a lot of goals. I don't think goal scoring is a problem for them. I don't think they need Patrick Kane. I think they could, if they wanted to make another move, I think there are other areas where they can put their assets to try to improve their overall game. They don't have trouble scoring. So, I mean, yeah, if Kane says it's Rangers a bust, then sure, Drury will definitely pursue it. But they don't need him. I don't think they need Patrick Kane.
Let me ask you this. What would you rather face? Would you rather face a top 6 that has Jimmy Vesey in it, or a top 6 that has Patrick Kane in it? Or here's a better question. Which is a bigger problem for an opposing coach? When you can put 3 guys like Kane, Zibanejad, and Panarin on one line, or when you could put them on 3 different lines and create a matchup nightmare? Because
that's something I'd be interested in.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right, but it goes. They still score goals. Is my point. They're not in dire need for Patrick Kane. I feel like the Dallas Stars are in dire need for Patrick Kane. I mean, they need more. They need more star power. They need more. They need more offense.
That would be.
We'll see. Listen, we'll see what happens. But I mean, Emily Kaplan had an article on ESPN today, and she mentioned that the Rangers are certainly not out of it. But she also said the Blackhawks still aren't certain that Kane even wants to be moved at this point. Apparently, he still hasn't said trade me yet. So
I don't believe that one bit.
I don't know.
I don't believe that one bit. And how is it that that's going around? Because that's got to be from Chicago media trying to push everything down. How is that the case? When Patrick Kane came out and said what he said, we got it from the horse's mouth about the Tarasenko trade.
Yeah.
Something is not right about what's coming out about, he hasn't told us that he wants out yet. That's obviously a bunch of shit. That's obviously
a good
lie.
Point.
Lie.
Yeah.
I believe Patrick Kane right now is stuck singing "Should I Stay or Should I Go" on loop right now.
Oh, stop. He already said he should go when he said what he said about the Tarasenko trade. If that's not I don't want out and I want to go to New York, then what is?
That's sort of like, if I didn't have a boyfriend, I would have been interested in dating you. I mean, that's what that's.
When have you ever seen another player come out and comment on a trade like that and say, I wasn't really happy about that trade?
All right.
When you've heard this, because I've never heard it in 30 plus years that I've been watching hockey.
I kind of got to agree with you on that. It's been very rare, but we can't spend 30 minutes on this. We've actually spent a good chunk of time on it. So, Anthony, as you know, Mat Barzal is week to week right now. The Mat Barzal injury will force Lou to acquire a top 6 forward.
Yeah, if things go well here, they have 4 games before the trade deadline. If they keep performing here and collecting points and, keep increasing their chances of making the playoffs, I definitely think he's going to make another move for a forward. Right now, I mean, not that he's any loss, but Josh Bailey's out. Pajot's out, Barzal's out. I mean, they called up Arnaud Durando from Bridgeport, who actually looked, pretty good. But you guys have Simon Holmstrom in the lineup still. So there are guys that he can improve upon to create more offense and provide more offense for the team and give more depth. So, I certainly think he's going to look to add a forward. Again, not saying it's going to be a major trade, but then again, with Lou, I mean, you really don't know what to expect from this guy. He keeps everything so close to his chest. But with that said, I could easily see a JVR or a Max Domi type of addition to the team to give them some more scoring in the top 9.
All right, Phil.
That cost better be cheap because that prospect cupboard is just barren right now. You have 2 prospects that are really worth anything right now in Dufour and Bolduc, and you can't afford to deal those 2 in either of those trades. So, I mean, yes, I'm going to say round in the aspect that it forces them to do it, but whether it actually happens, to me, that's I'm teetering between a beer and a shot in that aspect because I don't think that they have anything really to deal left at this point. You dealt a first-round pick in the Horvat deal. You don't want to continue to do that. And I mean, I just don't see what they have to deal away to get a deal done for anything greater than maybe a JVR, depending on what the asking price is on JVR or Domi. I can't imagine it would be too high though.
The one thing the Islanders also have is salary cap, so they don't have to get retention, which is going to drive up the price that a lot of other teams can do.
Yeah, that definitely does work in their favor.
But you're right about that. There isn't that many prospects, and Lou doesn't want to strip the cover completely bare. So Bolduc and Dufour are going nowhere. I'm going with a beer on this. I also think Lou does like his team, and I think that was obvious sort of last year as fans were clamoring, you got to sign a free agent. Lou decided to stay with his guys, and that's basically it. I don't see him completely mortgaging the future, even if he's not part of it. I don't see him doing NBA general manager. I'm going to just deal away every single asset, let the next guy handle it, because the next guy could be somebody that he knows. So he doesn't want to do that. Guys, we're going to go back to the team. Was that it?
I don't think he's the type of guy. I don't think he's the type of guy that cares much either. Like I said, he's 80 years old. He might not want to. I don't know how much time longer he wants to keep doing this. So keep that in mind.
That is a good point. But he is also a hockey lifer, so that's one thing and one reason why he'll keep doing it. Let's focus on the team that the Islanders beat the other night and Friday night, and that's the Pittsburgh Penguins. You look at them right now; they're 9th in the East, 63 points. They're just not looking that great right now. And if there's going to be a fall guy for the Pittsburgh Penguins, if they don't make the playoffs, Pittsburgh will move on from Mike Sullivan, Mr. LaRocco.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they were to fail and make the playoffs, it's certainly possible. So I'll go beer. But also, some of it's not on Mike Sullivan. I mean, he really can't control that his goaltenders, don't perform for him night in and night out. It's more on Ron Hextall, So I don't know. So coaches often they end up being the fall guys, right? Not even necessarily it's their fault. They fall on the sword. So it's certainly possible. But I don't know if it's also well-deserved, again, just because he doesn't really control what he's given on the roster in terms of goaltending and defense, et cetera. But again, if they miss the playoffs, which I think it's only happened once in Crosby's tenure. So if they miss the playoffs,
now's his first year.
They might send a message and fire him. So I'll go beer.
Phil.
Yeah, I'm going to say beer. I mean, only if they miss the playoffs. It's only if they miss the playoffs. If they make the playoffs with this roster and the horrendous goaltending that they have, then Mike Sullivan should probably be up for Coach of the Year because there's just this is an aging core. It's a flawed team with a lot of holes. Jeff Carter has regressed big time. He's starting to decline horribly. So Pittsburgh fans are not happy with him at all. There's not a lot of depth. I mean, Jeff Petrie's name has been thrown around in the rumor mill lately, which is just weird considering things that they just traded for him recently. But there's a lot of things wrong with this team. And if Mike Sullivan gets them to a playoff spot, I mean, kudos to him at that point. He's got to be a Jack Adams nominee. So this is a beer only if they miss the playoffs. Otherwise, it would be a shot for me. Because Sullivan, although, like you guys said, fall guys, coaches usually end up being fall guys because it's easier to fire one guy than get rid of 20 of them. But Sullivan's not the problem here. It's the poor roster construction and the fact that this team is just heading for a rebuild.
You guys hit the nail on the head
Marc,
with that one. And
you,
also the reason why I'm even bringing this up is because Sullivan usually would get the coaches get the blame in this. Anthony, I'm just going to say I'm going to throw the beer out there for that. And then I want to go back to you, and then I'll finish my thought on that in a second.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I looked it up while Phil was talking because I was curious. As much as we bash Tristan Jarry, he's got a .920 save percentage this year, which I didn't think it was as high as it was, but he does. So, it's weird because every time I watch him play, he lets up soft goals.
You know who he is? Sorry, Anthony. You know who he is? He's Mark Sanchez or Tony Romo. That as soon as you need the play to be made, he's not going to make it. He's not going to make the save. All he had to do was get a little bit more even towards Bo Horvat. Bo Horvat saw him being lazy, put the puck right off him and in the net. You shouldn't be able to score from right there. And the thing is, consistently, this guy in his career has done this over and over and over again. This is the reason why we end up slamming Tristan Jarry. I mean, it's just what he does. And unfortunately, you got a guy like Mike Sullivan who's done an excellent job with this team. But the other thing I got to quote for you is, outside of the years he's won a Stanley Cup, one playoff series win. That's it. 2018. Other than that, he's won the cup or he hasn't won at all. So, and I also think the Islanders exposed Jarry for what he was 2 years ago. And he still hasn't changed my mind. You know, one guy that's changed a lot of minds and turning a lot of heads? Ryan O'Reilly, acquired by the Maple Leafs on Friday. His last 2 games, 3 goals, 2 assists, including last night's hat trick, a 4-point game. And Phil, I'll ask you, although I'll use the term, he's the Butch Goring, but Ryan O'Reilly is the missing piece for Toronto.
I'm going to say beer. The reason why I say beer is I think they also need another defenseman. I think they need another defenseman who can log about 20 minutes a game. Otherwise, if they had that, then Ryan O'Reilly, this would be around for me because they needed a guy like him since Doug Gilmour. And that is what they have been missing for so many years. A great two-way center who can come in, shut down the opposition, and score at the other end, plays playoff-type hockey. O'Reilly's has he's got a Selke, he's got a Stanley Cup, he's got a Conn Smythe. I mean, Gilmour was the same way minus the Smythe. So, this is their modern day Doug Gilmour right now. This could be a big thing, but another thing that they also need is a legitimate goaltender. And I'm not sold on Ilya Samsonov come playoff time. I think that he's going to be one of the weaker goaltenders in the entire playoffs. I think that and their defense will eventually be their downfall. But the hope is that the Maple Leafs can play, like the Detroit Red Wings in the 90s and the 2000s, puck possession and keep the puck away and keep the puck in the offensive zone. And that'll eventually win you games. So I can only say beer because he's one of them, but not the.
Anthony.
Yeah, beer. I think he does add a lot of important elements that Toronto's been missing. He's battle playoff tested warrior. He brings those intangibles. He has the experience. He's won before, and I think that will help Toronto. It makes their team not as soft. I do think the Leafs are a little soft, and come playoff time, if you're a soft team, you're just going to get ran over in the playoffs where literally every inch of ice matters. But they still need defense, like John said. They still need to improve on their back end because Tampa Bay, it looks like they're on a collision course with Tampa Bay in the first round. And Tampa's an experienced team. And I think if the Leafs are the Leafs that we've seen the last, 5 years in the first round of the playoffs, it could be quick for them. So O'Reilly will help, but I think they need another piece on the back end for sure.
I'm just going with how little confidence I have in one player specifically. I like Ryan O'Reilly. I think this is a great move for the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's a shot for me. I got to go with a shot on this because the guy that I can't help but look at and point out the problems is Ilya Samsonov. I don't give a crap what his regular season numbers are. Him in the postseason has never been that good. Again, I am pointing out a specific moment. See Game 3 against the Boston Bruins where he basically left the puck and then Bruins end up winning. I think it was Smith that scored the game winner. That, you know what? Maybe O'Reilly helps keep the puck out of the net and at least those chances away. Because after all, he's got those chances, and he got the Conn Smythe, and also he got Jordan Binnington a Stanley Cup. But that was back when Binnington was taking the league by storm, and that Stanley Cup ain't coming back with Jordan Binnington in net for the St. Louis Blues.
Nope.
One guy that we saw this week was Josh Morrissey. He's got 11 goals, 47 assists, 58 points. Thought he scored his 12th on Monday night, but he didn't. It was tipped by Pierre-Luc Dubois. Nikita Zaitsev to Chicago.
Yeah. Nikita Zaitsev's going to Chicago.
Where's what team was he on right now? Was that
Ottawa.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Not really a needle mover, is it?
I mean, Ottawa's been looking to shed Zaitsev's contract for quite some time now.
Yeah, Elliot Friedman reporting that.
And so is it just that for Chicago, or did they give up like a low level?
We don't know yet. Well, I wonder if this could be connected to Ottawa. Ottawa has been linked to Jacob Chychrun a lot since the time that Chychrun became, available. So this is just me just speculating, but maybe they're creating some space to make a move for Chychrun.
You're not the only one. You're not the only one thinking that, Anthony.
There you go.
There
you go. And I do have to say, you're right about that. Ottawa's been linked to them for a long time. So
yes,
it'll be interesting to see if they can make a move for Chychrun. But getting back to this, Josh Morrissey, is it going to be a Norris Trophy finalist this season? Boys, I'm going to buy around on this one. His play and his numbers, this is a career year for this kid, and he deserves it. Played in the shadow of Bufflin and Trouba for a while, but now I almost got to say Rick Bowness might be like a defense whisperer because Miro Heiskanen playing his best hockey a few years ago when he got them to the Stanley Cup Finals. You thought he was going to be ascending to the now. Yeah, is a little bit less, but I go with Josh Morrissey. I think he's doing a great job. Anthony.
Yeah, I'm gonna go round. I think Morrissey, he's not gonna win it. I think he will be a finalist. I think Fox and Carlson will be the other two. But yeah, he's been outstanding. He's been outstanding for Winnipeg. Definitely they're one of their most important players aside from Scheifele and probably Connor at this point. Well, Hellebuck, obviously, then I think about it, but you get the point. Josh Morrissey, completely valuable for them. We'll see if this year is a one-off. He's never produced like this before in his career, so we'll see what next year brings.
37 points was his career high.
Yeah, but right now though, he's having definitely a Norris type caliber season. And I think if he's not at least a finalist, I think be a little bit almost of a crime. I mean, not to give any disrespect to Rasmus Dahlin because he's been fabulous too, but I really like what Morrissey's done for Winnipeg.
Oh yeah, I hate to break off for a little bit, but the update on the trade So it's Nikita Zaitsev, a 2023 second, and a 2026 fourth rounder to Chicago for future considerations. Ottawa definitely is. Could you imagine if it was Meyer and not Jacob Chikrin?
Yeah. I mean, they're let me check their standings right now. How they're doing with this. Because Ottawa's sitting right now at 58 points. There's 7 points behind the Islanders, 6 behind Florida. They got 4 games in hand. They need to win all those games just to get to Florida, or at least
not even. But it's not even just for the playoffs; it's for the future.
It wouldn't be for this year.
He's 26.
It would be for next year.
But would that cost them to break it?
Ottawa.
No, that's Ottawa not giving up to break it.
No, not that they're giving them up. They gotta sign them.
That's what they're making the space for.
Okay.
I mean, Ottawa paid. I mean, they gave up a second and a fourth just to get rid of a guy for nothing in return. I mean, that just goes to show the value that Zaitsev had. But yeah, damn, that's I mean, good. I mean, Ottawa has enough good prospects and enough picks that they can afford to give up a second to get rid of a guy. But yeah, I mean, good move for them, especially if it turns into like a Chikrin or whatever type Meyer transaction. That would make it even better.
Once again, I'm just waiting for the Jacob Chikrin saga to fucking end. Please just end. I am so tired of this movie. I've been watching it forever because I'm forced to watch it since I love the NHL. Phil, Josh Morrissey for Norris.
Yeah, this has got to be a layup. I mean, it's just, yeah, the easy button. There it is. Yep. So this is going to be around. Morrissey is playing at a point per game. He's playing great at both ends of the ice. I mean, he is the anchor to that defense. He is the guy that holds it all together. I mean, he's been the best player on that team. I don't care what anybody says about Hellebuyck. Scheifele's not having as great of a year. Kyle Connor's a great player, but I mean, it's Morrissey this year, man. Morrissey is really doing it all for them. So this is definitely around.
I had to check something though. Isn't Marc Scheifele? He's got 34 goals this season. He's in the top 10.
Yeah, but I think his points are down. He's usually about a point per game player, and I believe the last I checked, his points were down. Unless he went on some ridiculous hot streak that I was not aware of, then his points were down, and that's really the issue. I mean, the goal scoring is nice, but he's still got to put up a point, especially when you're a guy who since 2016 has really been like a point per game player.
Yeah, you guys know I like me some Marc Scheifele. Let's go over to a team that's in the Pacific, and all three of us picked them to win the Stanley Cup this year. Calgary Flames, 63 points, 9th in the West, 4 points out of the second wild card. Calgary's only shot at making the playoffs is wild card 2 in the Western Conference. Philk.
I'm going to say beer. I still think that this team gets it together. I think they've got to respond to Daryl Sutter. I'm not going to. Something about the makeup of their team just tells me that they have a shot. And I listen. I get it. Edmonton's got a 7-point lead on them. Calgary has a game in hand, but it just something about this team just sticks out. I think that Markstrom's going to get it right. He's too good of a goalie to be continuing to play at this level. And then Minnesota, you know what? I'm not totally sold on them. I really don't see them doing a whole lot. I think that this trade deadline is going to be a relatively quiet one for them. But I think Calgary is going to make a move, and they're gonna. I think they're gonna start playing better, and they're gonna start chasing Edmonton down. So I'm only going to say beer here.
Anthony,
I'm going to go beer. They're 7 points behind Edmonton and the Kraken. And that's hard to make up at this time of the year. But they are only 4 points behind Minnesota, which obviously is very doable. And they do have the talent on the roster, for whatever reason, they just haven't put it together this year. Maybe they make a move at the deadline if they could stay close. But I'm not confident that they're going to catch Edmonton or Seattle, but I do think it's possible they catch Minnesota. So that's why I'm going beer.
I'm biting around on this, guys. Their only shot is to try to catch Minnesota. And they're not getting wild card 1 because Edmonton's 7 points ahead. Every time I thought this team was going to get it going and get on a roll, nope. They don't. So, yeah, it's it's sad the situation that's going on with Calgary, because I really liked what I was seeing with them. And as David's saying right here, the West is pretty weak, but still Calgary. I just think I'm looking at Calgary and just going up. They're not going to really do much. By the way, just to break on with this, Mikey D brought up a good point, which is Chicago just traded for Zaitsev's contract. Adding $4.5 million means they could hit the cap floor, which means there's a big contract that's going to be moved very soon. And as Cora is saying, step 1 on a Patrick Kane trade.
Yep.
Be amazing to see where he goes, guys. And State, thank you very much. We'll see you again soon. And yeah, Anthony, we're going to try to be quick because I know the Islanders game is starting pretty much any minute.
It's already.
No, it already started. They're already like 2 minutes in, guy.
All right, I'm sorry. I'm so focused on our show. By the way, everybody, once again, a quick reminder for you that the trade deadline show is going to be next week, probably starting at noon unless some big trades happen. Anthony, I will be breaking down some trades. Hopefully, if we got some time, maybe get Philk on there. And the big news, guys, right now for the trade deadline, on top of this Patrick Kane news, is Vladislav Gavrikov and Jacob Chychrun are both being held out awaiting trades. Basically, healthy scratches. Luke Schenn sent back to Vancouver to await to be traded. Guys, the NHL shouldn't allow teams to hold out players unless a deal is imminent. Anthony, start it off.
Yeah, I mean, Gavrikov and Chychrun haven't played in over a week now, I think. And I know I'm fine with protecting your asset. Like if you're pretty close to dealing a guy, obviously sit him and then you consummate the trade, that day or the next day. But I mean, when you're talking that guys are being held out for trade related reasons and it's, coming on a week and the guy still hasn't been moved. To me, I don't know. I don't really like that personally. And I don't, maybe the players don't care because they're happy that they're leaving a team and going to a better team. But still, I don't. It doesn't sit well with me. So I'll go round. I don't think the league's going to do anything about it, but I do think it only should be in cases where the deal is going to be, completed, imminently.
Philk.
I'm gonna say shot. It just if the team wants to protect its asset, there's nothing that really, and the player's okay with it. Why is it an issue? Like I get like some people want to see them play, but like this is a business. At the end of the day, if you're looking to deal a player, the last thing you want to do is, oh wow, Scott Mayfield got away with a blatant penalty there, and then got kicked in the mouth with a skate. Oof. Guess that's his karma. But yeah, you can't really have you can't really tell teams, oh, you can't hold this player out like that. To me, that's stupid. You know what? I get you guys want to see the players play in action, but at the end of the day, this is a business, and if you're trying to make a deal, that's business. And if a player gets hurt while you're trying to, get a deal figured out. And that's really, really bad. That's poor asset management by a team. So trying to say that teams shouldn't be able to hold their players out like that, that's just bad. And to me, that's ridiculous. So shot.
I'm only going beer on this because I don't like the optics of it. I don't like everything in it, but I also understand asset management. And it's not even that it has to do with the whether or not you're protecting your asset. I understand that. They'll just come up with a phony reason. They'll say upper body injury or something like that, and he'll be back maybe in a couple weeks. But it's it's unfortunately, it's just what the necessity of things are. First time I ever heard about something like this was Ryan McDonough. So it's not like the Rangers haven't done it themselves. And it's just going to happen. I don't like it, though. I don't like it. So, all right. That's the end of Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk right there, guys. And once again, don't go to the liquor store. Order it from Drizly. You can use it on your app. You don't even have to go anywhere. Somebody else goes to Pure Wine and Spirits or something like that.
No, it didn't. Went right through the crease. Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my my Islanders feed up, but I haven't been able to get that so far.
Oh, I don't know how that didn't go in. Oh, it went off the post and Sorokin and then went through the crease, I think. Oh my god.
That was close.
That was really, really close. Oh my god. Winnipeg, they hit a post before too. I think it was Kyle Connor hit a post.
Yikes.
Nice glove save there on Morgan Barron, former Ranger.
So one thing just to cover real quick, guys, there's rumors of Rangers versus Devils at the Meadowlands for a Stadium Series game last year. Either one of you guys watch the Stadium Series?
No, that was the day of the wedding. I couldn't watch that game.
It was actually a really good game, or just the atmosphere that they created. I heard this is the 37th outdoor game that they've done. That's a lot. I think they've got the Stadium Series down now where it's just 2 games. That's it. And the Winter Classic. That's all you do. So don't get too much on that because then you ruin it and it's special. But Phil, one guy brought it up last night, on the Drive for 5, that the Islanders haven't been able to get an outdoor game since 2014. And it's kind of a little bit of a slap in the face. I happen to think the Islanders have reshaped their franchise very well, and they're starting to make themselves look like an A-tier franchise. I think this is also just them saying it's the Meadowlands. You put it in Jersey, you get the Devils in there, and you get Jack Hughes, who's right now a number 1 draft pick that they can market, and especially an American number 1 overall draft pick.
The Islanders don't really have any names that excite you. Like Sorokin's a goalie, but you're not going to watch this team because of Ilya Sorokin. It's not like you're watching Prime Hasek. I mean, he's great, but who am I watching an Islanders game for? Like, am I watching for Barzal? I mean, good player. Again, good player. Not elite or anything like that by any means. Exciting, yes, to a point, but it's not Connor McDavid. It's not Leon Draisaitl. It's not Austin Matthews. It's not Mitch Marner. It's not Malkin or Crosby or Ovechkin or anyone like that. So, I mean, the Islanders, they're not the big market, and they don't have the players that everyone wants, and that's what the NHL is going to do. They're going to get the teams with the players in there. That's why we continue to see Washington and Pittsburgh over and over again, because they have those guys. And the NHL has done everything to make these teams 2 of their flagship teams. The Islanders just aren't a flagship team, and it's not a shot at the Islanders, the market, or their fans or anything like that. It's just a matter of what it is. I mean, we've seen Anaheim in 1 game, and they did a Stadium Series game. And that was in 2014. That was the outdoor one.
That was Dodger Stadium, yeah.
Yeah, Dodger Stadium, and it was like a 60-degree night, I believe, and I don't know how they managed to keep ice, but you've seen Buffalo do once. They've done 1. Detroit,
they've done 2.
They've done 2. I mean,
yeah, both Winter Classics.
Both Winter Classics, exactly. I mean,
I'm sorry. Wait, Phil, wasn't there a third? Wasn't there a Toronto game?
Yeah, it was Detroit and Toronto. So Detroit's done 2 games. It's
right, but also I think Buffalo also played Toronto in an outdoor game in Toronto.
When was that?
That might have been the Heritage Classic. I got to look that one up real quick. I think Buffalo might be in 3 of them. But
I mean, you're not seeing you're not seeing certain teams that you're not seeing. You're not seeing, your Coyotes. They're not going to put the Arizona Coyotes in there, or the Ottawa Senators. They had a heritage game a while back that was outdoors against Calgary, but that's the only game that they've played in. And the Islanders, they've had one game. I think in Vegas. They're trying to, they're going to try to get those teams, but that's really it. So
yeah, the 2022 Heritage Classic, Ottawa. That's right. Buffalo was in versus Toronto.
Okay, yeah. So, but it goes to show you how much they market these Heritage Classic games because you don't freaking hear about them anymore. I remember the first one, there was all the hype in the world for it, and it was actually the first regular season NHL outdoor game. It was Edmonton and Montreal in 2003, 2004.
Yep. I had Jose Theodore in that game in fantasy. So I remember that. And just to conclude on this, then it was also damn it, I just had it. I lost it. Damn train of thought. All right. Well, we got a lot of guys cutting out for hockey games right now. So I guess we'll just cut it out right there, guys. Because we have a huge show, and again, trade deadline special is coming up next week. So make sure you check us out on Wednesday. Hopefully, we got a lot of stuff that we are going to be covering, and then, we got a lot of things you guys are covering right now. Where do you think Patrick Kane is playing in our poll? 57% say the New York Rangers. 4% the Maple Leafs, 14% for the Dallas Stars, or a wild card team / the Blackhawks, 25% where he'll be playing.
I'll say this. So basically this whole thing with Kane came up because a producer from that network that we won't mention their name of basically came out and he posted a GIF of Vladimir Tarasenko about 20 minutes before Frank Saravalli broke the trade that day. He did it again today with Kane and said, "Oh well, I'm not an insider. I'm not claiming to be one, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen today, but he's hearing things." And then Stephen Valiquette, about 20 minutes after him, came out and said that he was on the Kane train. So I definitely think something is happening. And then you see Chicago go and get Cap. They add Cap to get to the salary floor. Yeah, I definitely think Kane to the Rangers is happening. It's just a matter of when at this point.
Yeah, I'm worried about what this is, but because I just don't. I still think the Rangers need more grit. I'd over Patrick Kane. But look, Patrick Kane is a Ranger, then suddenly I'm going to be excited for it because I wasn't excited when they got Marty St. Louis, and he was a great pickup for them. So we'll see what that is. David Wood is saying, what do we do with the fourth line center then?
Yeah, it would be either Gaudreau or Tyler Mott, and it would get Jake Locardio the hell out of the lineup.
I think what was the other name I've heard from? Jake LaCrappen?
Yeah, Jake LaSkidmark.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen people call him Jake LaShitstain.
But this one thing, just in general, I agree with this. As Dave's pointing out, the NHL does a piss poor job in marketing all their teams.
Yeah, they do.
Marketing anything.
Yep. No, I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree there. But yeah, I mean, if you go get Kane, you're basically killing two birds with one stone. So we need we need a guy who wins faceoffs. All right, so who are you moving out of the four center spots then? Let me ask you that, Johnny. Who are you moving out of the four center spots? You're not moving Mika Zibanejad. You're not moving Philip Hedl.
You're not moving Vinny Trocheck,
who actually is pretty good at winning faceoffs. And Barkley
very good at
winning faceoffs. So who are we moving out of these four spots?
I think what he's trying to say is because, again, the image of a guy to go get in this situation, let me just throw this name out for Ranger fans for nostalgia. Craig McTavish. When the Rangers got him in 94, basically that guy was going to win a lot of faceoffs. That's what he did. And sure, I mean, and that's what he's asking. Who are you going to give up to get him? I think you're not going to give up much to get Patrick Kane. There's a new one, lay useless out of the lineup. I don't think you're going to have to give up much to get Patrick Kane. That's why I'm starting to come around a little bit. Everybody else, I'm like, no.
Forcing. I think he's forcing the hand here. I just don't see. I don't see it costing nearly as much as some people think. I really don't. So,
yeah. Eric Stahl is the
perfect trade comp. Yeah, I mean, I like that one too. I think if you can get him for a package like that, obviously, I think it's going to cost a little more than that. I mean,
is he talking about the Eric Stahl to the Rangers trade?
Yes,
a few years ago, second round pick, low level prospect that barely is not going to make the NHL, and I think maybe there was a second rounder in there.
Yeah, there was 2 second rounders and Alexei Sorella ended up being.
Yeah. But also, by the way, I also get this sentiment what Johnny's saying too. I've been a fan for 60 years. I'm getting sick and tired of getting guys way past their prime. It's what the Rangers have done for decades. But it's one guy though. So the last time they went and they did something like this was Marty St. Louis, and Marty St. Louis helped catapult them to where they needed to go. Stanley Cup final that they should have won.
They don't get to that final without Marty St. Louis. They don't beat Pittsburgh without Marty St. Louis. And then he was even better in the Montreal series. So, you know what? I mean, this is the type of player you're acquiring. The Rangers also don't acquire the calibers of players that Patrick Kane is. They've got a lot of guys past their prime, but I mean, really, you gotta think about this. Like you have a chance to go get a Stanley Cup. He is the best player available. If you're Gerard Gallant, you can do a bunch of things with Patrick Kane. You can put him with Zibanejad and Kreider and make that line great because they've missed that playmaking type like Matt Zuccarello and the way that line was scoring in 2019 before Matt Zuccarello got traded away. That they're missing that because he fills that Buchnevich right wing position. Then you could put him on a second line with Kane with Panarin and Trocheck, and that could be your line. And Tarasenko stays with Zibanejad and Kreider, and that's your big power line right there. That big, powerful, big-bodied skill line. Or again, if you wanted to, you can split Zibanejad, Panarin, and Kane over 3 lines. You could put Kakko with Zibanejad and Kreider because that line played very well earlier on in the year. You can have Panarin, Trocheck, and Tarasenko as your second line. And then you could throw Kane with Lafreniere and Hedl. And now the question for opposing coaches becomes, who am I throwing out against who?
Yeah. And again, this is whenever I talk about things. Hey, Mr. Fantastic. Whenever I talk about things, when it comes to the playoffs, I'm always discussing the matchups, and you have to discuss the matchups. And this is where you're right about this. And then you're talking about using Vinny Trocheck and Artemi Panarin, who is a pretty good defensive player in his own right. But you're talking about then throwing that line out as a matchup line. Ooh. Then you're talking about a line that can put the puck in the net against your best line. By the way, I just want to point out something because I know some people would say this. Dave was saying they don't beat Pittsburgh without Marty St. Louis' mom passing. People forget 2 things about that series. One, Henrik Lundqvist did the impression of a wall. Basically, first off, that entire series. Game 4, a little bit iffy. But the other thing was in Game 5, Chris Kreider comes back in the lineup, and the Rangers blitzed them. I think they led 4-1 before Malkin scored, or 4-0 before Malkin scored to make it 4-1. And I think they started to make it a little bit closer, but then the Rangers put it out of reach. The Mother's Day goal, one of the greatest heartwarming goals of all time for somebody to ever get. And then on top of that, then you get Dominic Moore in Game 6 versus Montreal. So it's when you think about those great plays. But this is where I think now you're starting to see the momentum. Now I'm starting to actually believe this might happen, Phil. I really believe it might happen.
I think
he's got to force his hand.
I honestly think they're going to get Kane. I really do. I just think it's a matter of now negotiating, and now that's just financials. You know what? Like I said, I wouldn't trust a random account. It's not a random account like that. I mean, he probably is hearing something. Valakat's coming out saying something too. Hopefully, Valakat's not doing his usual troll job. But yeah, I definitely think that someone who's definitely got some sort of connections. I think he could definitely be hearing somebody. Maybe it's secondhand, but I definitely think something is in the works.
I'm going to go back to AZ's. Actually, I'm going to do AZ's comment right here. What is the key decision for Kane to play for the New York Rangers? It appears only his family, his dad who lives in Buffalo, can
I
go
don't think
home.
it has anything to do with that. I don't think it has anything to do with family or anything like that. I think he wants to go play for a team that has a shot at winning the cup. I think he wants to go play with his friend Panarin, and I think that's it.
Yeah. I mean, he's got his own legacy. I've said this numerous times. His own legacy is just being a Chicago Blackhawk, and there is credit to being a lifetime player of one franchise. There's not many guys that get to do that. I mean, after all, Mike Richter and Henrik Lundqvist only played with one franchise because their health didn't allow them to continue on their career. And but I mean, Brian Leach got traded. You can see the disgust in my face.
Yeah, Brian. Yeah, well, that was a bad situation too, considering that he went to Glenn Sather and said not to trade him, and Sather went and traded him behind his back days later, like less than a week later. So that was just a really, really bad situation, and maybe Leach would have re-signed with the Rangers in the 05-06 season and would have played that last year with them instead of Boston. But yeah, this is a little different with Kane. I think he's done all he needs to do in Chicago. I just think that he just wants to move on, and I think the team wants to move on too. I think it's just a matter of nobody wanted to play the I want out card and look like the bad guy in the media. I think that's what it comes down to. But I mean, the comments from Kane after the Tarasenko trade would tell you otherwise.
Right. And he thought he was going to be a shoo-in over there. And it's going to be funny because now it looks like the Blackhawks are going to get even less than what Tarasenko went to the Rangers for, even though that was two players, him and Mikkola.
Yeah, I mean, I look at and I see people saying things about the O'Reilly trade and so on, and yeah, you know what, Ryan O'Reilly wasn't demanding a trade to only one team, and that's going to be the big difference. And I think at this point, that's going to be the difference between Patrick Kane getting less than Ryan O'Reilly. And not only
that, you have the best hand at the table, you make the other player do what you want.
Exactly.
That's what you do.
Exactly. It's a game of poker.
So right. And we're just going to read off a couple of the comments right here. Core Python was talking about Philk's lineup messages that lineups he was proposing just now. That sounds disgusting. I need it. Iceman is saying the only way I'd be happy is if it's got to be Kane and Jeanette or Domi and
Tanner Jeannot.
Okay, thank you. So
I don't think they have what it takes to get or cap wise to go get Kane and Jeannot. I think the cap after Kane would be
the cap after Kane is going to be too much, even after double retention and stuff like that. You're looking more like Gustav Nyquist, which isn't going to excite people that he comes up, but it slides Goudreau to the fourth line center, and hopefully he blocks a shot in the playoff that doesn't break his leg or hurt him. So
yeah,
that was one of the problems that happened. Iceman saying we're not going to win crap in the playoffs if we don't have grits. Teams will take exception against the Rangers.
They have grit.
They got some. You always want more.
I don't know why fans are acting like this team doesn't have grit. They need more. If anything, they need a little more skill.
Johnny Red saying, guys, it doesn't make me right. Just a dream I've had for years of having a team compete for years and win 2-3 cups in a 10-year period, i.e. Chicago. And yeah, I'd love to see that too, because
same.
We've suffered enough. John D. Lee, of course, always he's saying Barbashev and Lafferty is what he would go with. Mr. Fantastic is saying I think we get Kane too. What did they give up? You proposed a pretty good trade, which was I think if we were supposed to do a Who Says No tonight, but ran out of time. I think it would have been Kratzov's second round pick. Basically, the package you were offering for Barbashev. So,
yeah, basically, it just. I think if they have to deal the first, I think they may end up doing so. But I think it centers around Vitaly Kravtsov and either a first or second round pick, and then maybe Zach Jones. And then I think they would deal like a third or a fourth to a third team to have them retain the 25%. So
there's a couple more comments right here that I happen to really like right here. John D. Lee saying, if we get Arizona, if we get Kane, Arizona will be the third team to help facilitate it. Of course, because Arizona is saying they're going, hey, we got cap space and we're willing to take on any of your bad assets.
Why not?
They're almost the Statue of Liberty. Send me your poor, tired, and hungry. David saying this one, Sather was always the worst, and how is he still with this team?
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know. He did a better job post lockout when there were restraints on him, but he was the guy that said if I had the Rangers payroll, I would make the most dominant team. And then he ended up just making big trade after big trade. You could think. Do you think the first domino to fall would be Kratzov for a second round pick, or the Kane deal comes after?
I think Kravtsov would have to go in that deal. To tell you the truth, I think that you would. That's why they would make it work. I mean, maybe they are working on a way to move Kravtsov and then take that pick and include it in the deal. But I definitely think that something is brewing.
Yeah. And if Timo Meier ends up with the New Jersey Devils, oh boy, that first round series is going to be insane.
I've been hearing that the holdup to get that deal done is San Jose's insistence on Dawson Mercer being in the deal. And if that's the case, then I don't think that deal's going to get done.
Yeah, they love Dawson Mercer.
Yeah,
so I don't think
they do, and rightfully so. He's a good player. And New Jersey doesn't want to subtract too much from their roster. That would be a big subtraction. I mean, I get it. You're getting Meier, but at the same time, it's like, okay, like you got to make sure that you're not taking too much from this roster.
Nick is actually bringing up a good point right here. You're going to have to play 3 of Carolina, New Jersey, Boston, Tampa, or Toronto. Meier is likely going to the New Jersey Devils or Carolina. I am not passing on Kane to protect Will Cooley or other draft picks.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Like these teams are going to make moves, and do you really want to go up against Boston in a 7-game series with Jimmy Vesey playing in your top 6? I mean,
I do agree with that. I don't know if I give up Will Cooley though.
All right, so I like Will Cooley, but if you're going to let Will Cooley stop you from making what is a possible last piece to a Stanley Cup move, you are out to lunch.
Yeah. When you say it out loud, I have to agree with you on that one,
Think
folks.
about this. Think about what you are suggesting right there. You are letting a prospect like Will Cooley, like good, not great, nowhere near blue chip prospect, to stop you from making a deal that could put you over the top to get a Stanley Cup. Stop. Wake up. Come back to reality. So many people are prospect huggers online. It's insane.
If Patrick Kane is a New York Ranger next Friday night, which they don't have a game, but that's a different story. What power play and where on the power play does he play?
You're putting him on power play 1. That is for sure. And I think you would put him on the far side. The only problem is that you might have a little too many chefs in the kitchen at that point. So does that knock Zibanejad back to the bumper where he had his career season in goals? I think that would probably put Zibanejad back to the bumper. I think that he's a better shooter than anyone else that they've had in the bumper all year. I mean, you could run a power play of Zibanejad, Kreider, Fox, Kane, and Panarin, and that's one of the most lethal power play units in the entire league. And that's just a unit that's just going to cause a ton of trouble for any opposition.
And I gotta say what's going to open that up also. Chris Kreider's underperforming. Oh, what happened?
Oh, I was watching the Winnipeg and Islander game, and Winnipeg just made this tic-tac-toe cross-seam play, and Ilya Sorokin somehow made the save on it. Oh, my God. I mean, listen, Hoffman would be the one guy I would not want to move in that deal. He would be the one guy I would not want to move in that deal. But
yeah, I agree with you on that because Ottman is the reason why next year. This is the reason. First off, it's the reason why you're moving on from Vitaly Kravtsov, and he's going to be on this team next year. And this is the reason why you have rentals like Vladimir Tarasenko, because Ottman, and as I said this Sunday during an impromptu stream, it's just going to be Ottman's just going to slide right into one of those top 6 spots, and he's going to be effective because the way he looked in preseason this year, god damn, the Rangers hit on that pick.
Yeah, they did. Islanders just scored 1-0.
All right, who got it?
I'm trying to see who picked up that rebound.
But yeah,
Sebastian Aho.
Yeah, we were just talking about that, Anthony. Absolutely insane save that he made. Look, I'll play the music in about a minute, but where do you think Jacob Chikrin ends up?
I don't even know. I think maybe Ottawa. I think maybe that's the team. It seems like they want to add a defenseman. They could, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they were somehow in on Timo Meier. And St. Louis, I know that was a name that actually came up when Frank Saravalli was talking about it. So, I could see Timo Meier maybe going to St. Louis because St. Louis, you think about it, the core guys that they have, Buchnevich, Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, they're all young enough to the point, but they're also old enough to the point where they don't want to spend 5 years rebuilding scorched earth. You know?
Yeah.
So now, you could go get Timo Meier. You do a lot for that team.
Just to get with you on this one, Iceman. Unfortunately, now it's a headline, and now we have to analyze it because now it actually could be a reality. In one way, your offense is going to be to the point where
asking for Tanner Jeannot. Tanner Jeannot shot at like 20% last year as a rookie, and now all of a sudden he's crap. Like,
the RFA status,
other than the fact that he fights.
Yeah, the RFA status is going to be there, but Barbashev would be an interesting point on there. I think they're set on.
But Tanner Jeannot just.
I'm not the biggest Max Domi fan either.
No, Max Domi doesn't do anything for this team.
But to borrow the line, what he wants is that acquisition where we could turn around and say, "You want to play rough? All right." Hold on, we're getting this right now. I believe it was Christopher Johnston who said that San Jose would trade Meier to Vegas.
He just goes by Chris.
What?
He just goes by Chris.
Okay. No, it's Anthony that put this out there.
No, I know, but you called him Christopher Johnson. He just goes by Chris.
Oh, okay, my bad.
He never uses Christopher.
All right. You would trade him to now. You wouldn't have to trade to SJ. That'd probably be NJ, or Vegas, but they would have to pay him a premium more so than New Jersey or Carolina. There's 2 San Jose's in there. I don't know which one you meant.
I think he meant STL. I think
probably because they're within the same conference.
Yeah, just because they're in the same conference. But St. Louis was a name that was mentioned, and I think it was either Friedman or Saravalli. I think Saravalli first brought up the St. Louis. Actually, it might have been. I think it was Marc and Friedman may have been talking about that on their podcast, actually, and then Saravalli brought it up. But it just makes a lot of sense for St. Louis, just because I think St. Louis might want to retool and not rebuild. I don't think they're looking to go scorched earth.
By the way, just to say for the record, it's only Marc, not Marcus or Marcellus. Although Marcellus actually wouldn't be that bad. I think I would actually make a decent Marcellus. But as the way I always said, my mother liked the way Marcus looked, but she wanted to drop the U.S. even though she loved America. That's the reason why it's Mark with the C.
Wow.
Would rather have Lafferty over Domi and Lafferty. Lafferty's a good face-off player, but does not turn the puck over. Not a liability. Mark is short for Justin.
John, they're not doing anything else on defense.
Harper is going to be their spot defenseman. He's going to be their Justin Braun. And I say Justin Braun lightly because Justin Braun was the better option than what's his name? Patrick Nemeth. Yeah. And after game 5 of the first round, you never saw Patrick Nemeth ever again.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's nobody that's there. The Rangers got a ton of guys that can kill the penalties. That's what the good thing is. You got Zibanejad, you got Kreider.
The penalty killing has not been great, though. It's deceptive. Their numbers are deceptive, but they consistently let up power play goals, especially recently. So they've got to be better. But I mean, I wouldn't mind them getting a penalty killer, but at the same time, I don't know.
Well, Iceman, I agree with you on one thing about that you got to get guys that are going to protect people. But in the playoffs, fighting is down a lot anyway. Occasionally when you see the fights break out. And yes, I do know about the story, obviously in the 70s, where the Flyers said they knew they had the Rangers because they fought them in the first period of game 1. And then the Rangers didn't respond and they knew they had them on the ropes. So, and I get that thinking. But fighting does go down in the playoffs. I don't think Reeves was as much of the nuclear deterrent as he was towards the end of last year. We can start coming away from
what is this?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Sweeping. What is this? No, like I don't know.
They're not gonna get swept.
No,
but what he's saying is they need to get tough.
I know what he's saying. I'm saying, who is saying anything about the Rangers sweeping their way to perfection? Nobody is saying any of this. No, I stop with this. And Jeannot is nothing really but a fighter. If you've looked at his numbers this year, that's it. That's all this guy is doing this year. He's not doing anything else. It's not like he has a great impact on the game defensively. He just hits and fights, and that's it.
Mr. Fantastic is saying, I think part of the problem with the PK is Igor, honestly. He's been mediocre as of late, and I do agree with you on that one. He's been not very good.
No, Igor has to get it. If anything, none of these moves are going to matter if Igor Shesterkin doesn't snap out of it, which I think he will, but he definitely needs to snap out of it. Here's your numbers on Tanner Jeannot this year, since people seem to be obsessed with
I think it's like 5 goals, 4 assists.
5 goals, 14 points. He's averaging 15 minutes of ice time per game, and he's shooting at 5.7% after shooting at 19.4% last year. Regression to the mean.
Yeah.
He is not the answer that you think he is.
Well, Phil, we could always get career best Ranger Colin Blackwell. I forgot what the fuck his name was. The only good thing about him was that he wore 43, which great players all wear. But it's just,
Oh God, you and 43.
Yeah, well, it's my number. That's the reason why. But no, and I look, I like Jeannot, but I also think
Jeannot is not playing on the. If you are getting Tanner Jeannot to play on your second line, you are not doing this team any help whatsoever. You want help offensively, you want help, and you want to bolster the top 6. Okay, go get Barbashev or Kane. Domi's not the answer. Jeannot is not the answer. Nick Bukestad is not the answer.
You ever look at just Max Domi and just think, oh no, his game just. Why is it this guy can never find a home?
Max Domi isn't even that good. He's not even that good. Carolina went and got him, and everybody was like, oh, wow, Carolina is going to be a real tough team. They just added Max Domi at the deadline, and he was going to do so much. He ended up being on that 4th line against the Rangers. He did nothing.
Oh, that's
He
not
did-
true, Phil. He scored that critical goal and make it 5-2
Yeah,
in
that's
Game
it.
7 in
He's
the
got
third period.
43 points in 56 games this year. And you know how much time he's getting per game to do that? 18 minutes and 17 seconds per game. That's what he's averaging, which is the highest in his career. The only other time that he averaged higher than he's actually averaged higher than 17 minutes 2 other times in his career. And one of them was his career year in Montreal in 2019.
Yeah.
So,
And the Tyler Bertuzzi thing, that's going to be an interesting place to see where he lands. Kane and Barbashev are nice, but you can't give up everything. The cap gymnastics to get Kane are insane, and it's no better than 50-50. This started all with one sentence from Emily Kaplan.
Devils intimidation, Bruins intimidation. These guys are not the 70s Flyers, dude. I don't know where you're getting this stuff from, but you're stuck in like 1970. This is not the case anymore, man. It's not.
Yeah, I gotta say, again, fighting goes down. Look, do you need to have somebody to answer the bell? Sure, that's where you got Barclay Goodrow.
They're not facing Tom Wilson.
Yeah, they're not going to face Tom Wilson, and they're not going to have stuff like that. And sometimes you get to a point where Tyler Bertuzzi is not getting moved. It was reported the other day that the Red Wings
Bertuzzi would have been nice, but again, he's not having a great year, and he's missed a lot of games this year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know Minnesota and Winnipeg do not think they're the 70s Flyers.
Yeah.
Minnesota, where are you getting this from? Because they have.
I think it's because they got Reeves.
Greenway?
Yeah, I think that's what he was saying. He's trying to joke around about.
I mean, if that's sarcastic, then my bad. But I mean,
oh yeah, there's the LOL at the end.
That's because I was about to say Minnesota is they're definitely not a rough and tumble type team. And that's been one of their problems in the playoffs. They've gotten killed by teams. No, I don't think Ryan Reeves would have helped the Rangers in the playoffs last year. No,
Actually, I thought other than being a great locker room guy, I thought Ryan Reeves was nothing on the ice. Absolutely nothing. Ryan Reeves there's a reason why there's shelf life on guys like this, like on Ryan Reeves, or for that matter, for Gerard Gallant. So it has
a problem. You have to go and add. You have to add players that can help you win. If you think Tanner Jeannot is a better option to add to this team than a guy who's won 3 Stanley Cups
and Conn Smythe.
Conn Smythe, and has 43 even strength playoff goals out of his 52 career playoff goals. A guy that's 45th all time in postseason scoring, and only 3 guys ahead of him have played less games: Mario Lemieux, Guy Lafleur, and Phil Esposito. Then I don't know what to tell you. To me, you are out to lunch. I get the point of having grit and toughness, but if you think that held Patrick Kane back from his 3 Stanley Cups, then I don't know what you were watching. I really don't. Because this guy picks it up when the games matter. And this team, Artemi Panarin, where was he last year after the Pittsburgh series? Where was he? I don't know. I couldn't find him. He was a milk carton case after the Pittsburgh series.
Especially in the Carolina series. They took him right out. You need to add another guy that can open up lanes. You need play drivers. You need to create matchup nightmares. So, although I do have to agree with Ariana on this one. Let me get her comment in there. Wow, you guys just fired out with comments right there. Thanks, Phil.
No, that wasn't me. That was Anthony.
Oh, okay. Because I think we did that at the same time.
No, that was. I think that was Anthony that put that trade up.
Okay, but first we'll do this. Larson for Hall, 1-for-1 type of trade. Who do you think says no for Chychrun or DeBrincat?
I think Arizona says no. I don't think they're going to want a guy like DeBrincat back in return. Why? How is that going to do anything for them? They're going to want picks and prospects.
If this was proposed at the draft, I think this deal goes through, but it's not. because
I just don't think that they would move. They would take the Brinkett back. It just doesn't make sense for them.
Right, but the only reason why I say it like that is because if they know they got Connor Bedard, then they would, if they end up winning the lottery, then they would gladly take back Bedard, and now you have, DeBrincat, so you could pair him with the Bedard, and now you have your first line for the next few years. I mean, maybe that.
I get what you're saying there. It does make sense in that aspect, but again, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I really don't. It's to me, they're going to want more picks and prospects. So,
well, and by the way, NWR for Life is saying right here, Kane's Stanley Cup experience is going to be huge because after all, you have Barclay Goodrow who won a Stanley Cup and Vladimir Tarasenko that won a Stanley Cup, and that's it for your Stanley Cups on this team.
Well, Tarasenko and I don't think Mikkola won. I think Mikkola.
No, I think Mikkola just missed.
I think he came the season after, but Tarasenko, that's a big one. So,
but do you think, by the way, and what Ariana's saying right here, do you think that would be too much of the same thing for the Rangers?
Well, that's why I said you could spread it out, and I get the concern about not having grit, but at the same time, the Rangers have gritty players, and that's why you have guys like Jake Locardio playing because he's gritty, and Sandy Blais was playing because he was gritty, and they refused to play Vitaly Kravtsov because he's just. But Patrick Kane has been able to deal with all of that. Like I don't know how.
Well, this is the one thing. Let me answer it, and I think let me get an extend for your thought. Patrick Kane's already answered that call. The Flyers were gritty. He beat them in the Stanley Cup Finals. Detroit was gritty. They beat them multiple times to win a Stanley Cup. Once in the Western Conference Finals. Tampa Bay had grit in 2015. Patrick Kane was there to beat them. LA, they got past LA twice. And it was with.
And LA was probably one of the biggest and heaviest teams that they faced. You know who else was a big, heavy team? Anaheim in 2015, who they beat in the conference finals.
So.
It's just.
In 2013, they beat LA, and then they beat the Bruins, which, rumor has it, there was some size on that team.
Oh, and Chara, Lucic, Thornton. You got all these guys, all these big bad bruisers on those teams, and Kane has beaten them. Kane, I just don't understand how you would not want to add one of them.
Because I think the temptation is, Phil, we've seen this movie before with too many times where the superstar comes in and they're barely productive for the Rangers, and then the Rangers end up getting a first round exit. Whether it's, and I'm not saying he's a superstar. One name that comes to mind is Nick Antropov, who I believe he had the goal in Game 7 for. That's I know it's a little one
comparison,
but
that's a poor comparison because that not just because of the stature of the player, but that team was so bad they barely scraped to get into the playoffs, and they lost to Washington. They had that series. They were up, 3-1 in that series?
They had 3 games to 1 in that series. They were up.
And they lost that series.
And it started with
when Semyon Varlamov came
in. And by the way, Phil, you know what started the downfall of that series was Sean Avery, everybody's favorite grit guy, him hitting Semyon Varlamov behind the head, causing a huge fight, and then the Rangers suspend him for Game 5. Torts goes off in Game 5. He gets suspended for Game 6. They get their doors blown off in Madison Square Garden with a chance to close it all out. And then a puck hits off a Wade Redden's skate past Henrik Lundqvist in Game 7. That's all she wrote. So I think one of the other metaphors or examples I could have used was Marty St. Louis in 2015 when he wasn't that good for the New York Rangers in the playoffs. But he was probably dealing with injuries because he was having a good season.
Marty St. Louis was the team's leading. Was the team's second leading scorer.
No, 2015, not 2014.
Oh, 2015. Yeah, he was done by then. No, he was just. They got him more so for that 2014 run. That's what they really, really wanted him for.
When he got hurt in March of that year, I think he was playing with Hayes and Hagelin. I think it might have been.
It was Hayes and Hagelin.
And that line actually clicked. And then he got hurt, and then he just wasn't the same after that ever again.
Yeah, this is, I mean, I think it's going to be more than a fourth in Kravtsov. But if the Rangers are the only team, it's not going to cost a lot to get this guy. And you know what? I honestly, I hope so badly that they get him. And he comes here, and this team wins the cup. And he just absolutely goes off in the playoffs so I can turn around and laugh at some of these responses. Because, for the life of me, I don't know how you say
Phil, I'm with them, but I'm warming up to the idea because I still think they're better off getting a fourth liner and a second liner if they can.
But they're not going to get both. That's the point. They're not getting both a fourth liner and a second liner. If they go out and they get one more player, it's going to be one more player and not two. Where are you putting that second player? Who gets scratched?
And I think Mr. Fantastic hit it on the nail on the head right here. Kane will not be Eric Stahl.
No, he won't. He won't. He's far better in his career at this point than Eric Stahl. He's got really good numbers. And if anything, this last week and a half has shown you that he can just turn it up and the hip is not a problem. If the hip was that much of a problem, you think he would have rocketed that puck left? That should have been a goal. I don't know how that wasn't a goal, but okay.
Yeah. And by the way, Chris, this is the reason why you listen to us, because we have a lot of information up here, even though sometimes it comes out where I say Justin. But as Brandon's saying, tell him, Philk. But
it's just like you can upgrade your top six and your bottom six in one move. So, okay. So here's
Mikey's starting to realize it too.
Here's the problem. So you go get Tanner Jeannot. You're going to put Tanner Jeannot in the top six, or you're going to keep Jimmy Vesey in the top six. Those are your options. That's not a good look. I do not want Jimmy Vesey playing top 6 minutes in a playoff game. And no, so here, this was the other thing I was going to get to. Who are you scratching if you get someone like Domi or Jeannot or someone else after that? Who are you scratching? Is Jimmy Vesey being scratched? You're going to scratch one of your better defensive players? You're going to scratch Barclay Goodrow, the $3.6 million guy that you brought in for his cup experience? And
by the way,
nope.
And Phil, let me also just get you that. Let me just look right at the camera for this one. Do you guys think Gerard Gallant is going to scratch Barclay Goodrow?
No, because he friggin' loves him. Jimmy Vesey is small. Is that literally what I just read?
He disappeared. I understand his size, but again, you're using him as a fourth liner. I understand what people are saying. He's played great defensively this year.
Jimmy Vesey is 6'3" and 205 pounds. He is not a small man.
But,
and I can tell you right now, I would not want to go up against a fourth line of Vesey, Mat, and Goodrow. Because Vesey and Mat's speed is going to cause nightmares for defenses. Nightmares. Mr. Fantastic Hockey Reference has him at 6'3", 202. So, I mean, does he look like a pigeon? Does his face look weird? Sure, he looks like a 12-year-old kid. I do agree with that. But he is not a small human being by any means. He should never be in the top 6. What about Nyquist? Okay, so if that's the fallback option, okay, that's not sexy. It's not really moving the needle.
That's not a bad option, though.
It's not a bad option by any means. It's better than having VC in the top 6. And nobody is scratching Barclay Goodrow. That's not happening.
And 100% right on that, Iceman.
And you're not scratching Tyler Mott, who you just dealt Julian Gauthier and a draft pick away for.
Yeah.
So who else are you scratching? Because you're not scratching anyone in the top 9 right now. That would be lunacy, and Gerard Gallant and Chris Drury should both lose their jobs instantly if that happened.
But But again, there's a different type of atmosphere. There's a different type of style that Jimmy Vesey's been playing. He's been playing a defensively responsible style. That is what the Rangers are going to use him for. And they got 8 goals out of him.
This isn't the Jimmy Vesey of 2016 through 2019. That it's not that Jimmy Vesey. He's a completely different player. But yeah, you know what? I'll give you this one, David. Well done. Good work, sir.
They won't scratch Kako until they're facing elimination.
Good. That you know what? Well done.
This is definitely where we tip our hats to you. All right, Philk. So we're gonna wrap it up right here. By the way, to show you one of the things we're gonna be giving away next week. This is a Filipino autograph puck. So that's going to be one of those things. I got a couple other things coming. Kaapo Kakko signed picture. Some things for the Islanders. Brian Trottier signed one. Brock Nelson one. So there's going to be lots of things. We can get Messi out of retirement, and as long as he could still bring that same moxie in Game 6, that was still.
The dude is 60.
Yeah.
Or
but
62 now, rather.
And I do have to say, Brennan Ottman's the one untouchable, I would say. Ariana's.
I don't think they're going to have to give up Brennan Ottman in that trade. I really don't.
They're not going to have to do that.
All right, so I want to. All right, so let me go. I want to see something real quick because I want to go back to the trade for Ryan O'Reilly. Like I want to see.
And Corstay, and your point about Panarin is disappearing really makes me want Kane more because I don't know if I trust him in the playoffs. You know, one guy you can trust in the playoffs? Chris Kreider. Chris Kreider's been a money player his entire career in the playoffs. Mika Zibanejad proving he's a money player in the playoffs. So there's 2 guys right there.
I want to.
But Ariana's saying, I mean, if you acquire Tarasenko,
it was O'Reilly, Noel Chari, and Pollard to Toronto for Vitaly Abramov, Adam Gaudette, the 2023 first, a 2023 third, and a 2024 second round pick to St. Louis, and then a 2025 fourth rounder to Minnesota to retain the deal. Honestly, there is no prospect in that deal that comes close to the level of Brennan Ottman. Vitaly Abramov is not that. Neither is Gaudette.
And as you said, there was no trade protection for Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Which means there's the no trade protection for Patrick Kane, and he could say, send me to the Rangers or not. And then you might get a very, very disappointed guy if they don't send him there.
Yeah, the cap is not hard at all. All they have to do is waive Leschyshyn, include Kravtsov in the trade or waive him, whatever. And then they can get a third team in. And we have examples of how it looks for a third team to be in the deal. And it doesn't cost much to get that third team to help retain. It's not. We even saw David Savard and Derek Brassard trades in previous years too.
And by the way, I'm sorry, David. No, it was a third. I think it's a B-level prospect. It's Hunter Skinner.
A B-level? No, Hunter Skinner is not a B-level prospect.
I think he's more of a C. I'm trying to think what you're saying because it's not Sammy Blais. Sammy Blais is nothing.
Hunter Skinner is like a D plus, maybe C minus level prospect. Skinner is not a good prospect. He was a long shot to make the NHL. So,
Toronto, Corey's laughing right now. Toronto got a prospect from Minnesota for being the third team.
St. Louis, I think he was saying. Yeah, I think he meant St. Louis by that comment because Toronto didn't get that. But, I mean, unless they're talking about Pilar is not really anything great, though. Like, you're not going to see a guy like that in the league. None of these prospects thrown around in these deals so far have had any such sort of potential to be NHL players, like big time, like impact players. Winnipeg just tied it. Let's go Jets.
Anthony's gonna really kill you on that one.
Oh, I don't care. The Islanders are now behind the Rangers, so now this I don't want them getting closer to the Rangers. That's it. No. But Brooks wrote today that Kravtsov's locker was moved at the practice facility. Yeah, he's on his way out.
Yeah,
he's on his way out.
Kravtsov should be gone. There is nothing to keep it. You keep running Kravtsov out there, it's not going to happen. Again, Ottman is the future. So why would you? And they still have to worry about Lafreniere, Kakko, and Hedl for their contracts coming up. I mean, Kakko is the one after next year, not this year. So it's just there's no reason to have Vitaly Kravtsov on this team. And a lot of people that got upset about it, and that's the harsh truth about it. He has to go.
Yeah.
All right. Phil, I'm going to play the music and start us on the way out.
Yeah.
Because we are right now at 8:13. Wow.
Yeah. It's over 2 hours today.
Yeah. I mean, me and Anthony are going to have at least 4 hours. Me and you did 6 twice. We did the draft and we did this. We did the trade deadline, which is coming up.
No, I'm talking as a comparison. Tarasenko didn't bring in too much, and Tarasenko had multiple teams on his list. Yeah, and that's the point. I mean, Kane has. It seems like there's only one team he wants to go to.
Yeah. By the way, so sorry about that. It was the other way around with you.
Yeah.
That you were actually saying it didn't take much. I thought you were saying that the Rangers are going to have to pay more.
But again, that's just to the point of what I'm speaking to.
So, trade deadline is next week. Can't wait for this because once the trade deadline's done, you look over and say my team's on the floor. Phil, let me just throw one thing out there, and I want to make sure you're going to give me the answer. I think it's going to happen. Patrick Kane does not become a New York Ranger next week. They whiff on Barbashev. They don't get Max Domi. They're not able to add another player. Does Brennan Ottman come up in April?
No.
Okay.
No.
You got to slide that contract the next year, right?
They're not going to do that. That's absolutely not happening. I believe that was actually addressed by Arthur Stable, I think, in one of his mailbags. I would say the probability of that happening is almost zero.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks very much. It's always great doing these shows, especially with you guys. And we're always doing our best for you. So can't wait for next Friday. We're going to have, obviously, another main show Wednesday. If there's any big breaking news, we will be on air to discuss it. Maybe I'll do another Sunday stream just out of nowhere. There was 55 of you at one point for this today, and there's been a steady stream of about 40 the entire day. So, guys, again, thank you very much. It is great to do this, and we'll see what we got. What are you looking forward to this week, Phil? Besides Patrick Kane.
Got another pair of skates coming in. Got to go get those baked, and then playing some hockey this weekend. So that should be fun.
Yeah, I had a game at Freeport, and again, it was a good game. Went down to the final minute, had a goal in the game, and just I don't understand why people can't win faceoffs because I win like 80% of mine.
Oh, yeah, that's why your title underneath your thing used to say face-off.
Face-off extraordinaire.
Face-off extraordinaire, yeah. My bad.
All right, guys, everybody, thank you very much. We're going to cut out. I'm going to go get something to eat. We'll have the audio up for you in about 30 minutes. Thank you very much, guys.
Take care, everybody.
And also, have an ice day.
Have an ice day. I like it.
What do you mind telling me to start saying that?